And I got to go as a 22-year-old, and I paid to have access to this community of gym owners. And they were all going around talking about what was going good and what was going wrong in the business. And when it got to me, I was like, well, okay, so I want to open a location, and this is kind of what I was thinking about my model, and this is what I was thinking about price points. And they were like, wrong, wrong. Here's why that's not going to work. Here's how that's not going to work. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is where I was going to buy equipment. They're like, don't buy there. That's retail. You can get it from secondhand over here, and it's literally a tenth of the price. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, great. I was like, well, I was thinking about getting this type of thing. They're like, no, girls will eat shit on that and they'll fall. Like, I've had 2 girls do it. Don't worry about it. Like, you're not going to use it. But you can get sandbags. You can use them all the time, and they're super cheap. And if you have to replace them, you can. But you can use them for like hundreds of exercises. And I was like, great, I'll do that. And then I was like, okay, so I was thinking about this kind of square footage for my facility. They're like, dude, you don't need all that. You can cut that in half. And I was like, okay, we'll cut that in half. And I was like, I'm willing to pay $2 a foot. And they were like, no, never go over 150. And I was like, okay, never go over 150. And so like in a matter of a day, I got to take like all of the knowledge of all of these guys of the mistakes that they'd all made with their gyms. And I started my first gym just on their backs. And so how much was that worth to me? Years. And so for me, I have always been willing to pay in whatever currency was required to get knowledge that I don't know.
Can you get that now for free?
Yes. It didn't exist then. YouTube wasn't even a thing. Instagram had just come out. Like, for context, for everybody who's listening to this. I think about this equation a lot, and I actually had some video of somebody shitting on me for this, but I'm going to say it anyways because there's the 20% that are going to say it. That's right. I'm not going to dilute myself. So I saw a salesman say this at a conference, and he wrote $1 million on a whiteboard, and he called up a lady in the audience, and he said, "How much do you make?" And she said, $50,000 a year. And so he wrote $50,000 underneath the million, and he subtracted it, and it said $950,000. He said, it costs you $950,000 every single year. You don't know how to make $1 million a year. And so the question is, what is the value of that skill? And the answer is the difference. And so the troll who responded to this originally was like, well, you can keep going. What about $100 million a year or $1 billion a year? And I was like, yes. Yes, if you had the skill of making $1 billion a year, then the difference between 50,000 and $1 billion is the delta of the value of that skill. And it's really not one skill. It's many skills that ladder up to, when combined together, to create that kind of value. But I remember that being like seared into my memory, which is like, whatever I want to have, the delta between where I'm at and where that thing is what basically what I'm willing to sacrifice in order to learn what I need to learn to get there. And I think that if people appraised that delta, not by the money in their wallet or the time that they currently have, but how much they would be making or how much time they would have and how much that's worth to them, then I think far more people would be willing to invest in their education. And it's such a taboo word because people hate the word education. It's like, oh, it's like work. But like, you want to be an entrepreneur, like, you got to learn. There's so much stuff to learn.
Parrots versus practitioners. This is an idea that I've thought about a lot over the years, because I look at someone like you and I can tell based on everything you say today that you are a practitioner. In this analogy, what I call a parrot is someone who hears what Alex said and then starts saying it. But your lessons and wisdom have come from going through that shit and being able to distill the essence like Richard Feynman and then share it. There is a group of people that just spend their whole life reading books, posting about it, etc. They never take the jump. Parrots versus practitioners is the best way to learn being a practitioner.
This is widely known in the education space, but not as much in the content world. But there are 2 types of education. There is procedural and there is declarative. So declarative knowledge is knowing about something. Procedural knowledge is knowing how to do something. So a simple example would be, okay, I understand how private equity works, right? Like that you could talk about it. You can explain how, okay, they take some debt and then they have this arbitrage and they get this enterprise value multiple, whatever. But you've never done a deal. And until you've done a deal, you will not have procedural knowledge of knowing how to actually do a deal. And so you can read 100 books on sales, but you will learn more about actually selling from your first 100 sales calls.
And business is the same.
Yes. And so the idea, in my opinion, for most people is that if you want to rapidly learn, you want to rapidly do those 100 repetitions as fast as you can so that you can suck 100 times in a row and find the 10 that sucked the least and then say, how do I suck least on the next 100? And you keep doing that so many times until eventually you suck so little that you're actually good.
Hard work.
Yes. And I think, this is actually really interesting because it ladders up to, because there's two types of creators. You've got entertainers and then you have educators. At least that's how I separate it. The point of entertainment is to maintain the attention of the audience. That is it. So the point of an entertainer is to literally just keep people watching. The point of an educator is to change someone's behavior. And so if you want content to do well in either of these buckets, fundamentally, at least in the education space, you're selling time. So education is, I spent all this time doing this thing to learn these 4 things that I can give to you so that you don't have to spend this time learning it. And so education is actually, if said differently, what you do is you buy time. So when you buy, it's the only way to actually buy time today. So if you want to basically time warp into your future, you have to buy education so that you can buy all of the life experiences from all these people and then not pay for it in your life. You pay for it with less time by consuming what they have, or some money, or some combination of those things. And fundamentally, we usually pay with the currency that we value least. And so, interestingly, a rich person values their time more than their money, and so they're willing to pay with money to get time back. A poor person will also pay for their time and drive around to 10 different gas stations to find the one thing that's 10 cents cheaper, or drive to 10 different grocery stores to use whatever coupons. They're valuing their time over their money in that instance. And so back to the educator, if you want to be certain or have confidence in any endeavor, you have to do so much volume of activity that it would be unreasonable that you would suck. And if you were to write out the equation of like, okay, how many public speeches would I need to give for it to be unreasonable that I would suck? Is it 10? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Write the number that you're like, there's no way that I would suck after this many. And then all of your effort gets really narrowed, commitment, elimination of alternatives, focus, turn down quality and quantity of other things, to just doing that. And the key part of this is not just to do the 1,000, but after every 10 or every 20, looking at the top 10 or 20% and saying, what did I do well there? And because you have to have the feedback loop. Otherwise, it's not just doing 100 reach outs. You have to do 100 reach outs and then look at what worked and then do more of what worked. And so for the Parrot versus the Practitioner component of this, even if you're starting out, you can have confidence in what you're doing because you derived the solution. And you can actually answer why you do something. So if you cannot explain why you believe what you believe, it's not your belief, it's someone else's. And so most people, I would say, parrot the vast majority of the things that they say because, and to be fair, that's how humans learn. You're 5 years old, you say, what's that? They say bull, and you say bull, you parrot it back, and there we go, right? But when it comes to skills, you can describe what other people have said before, but if something goes wrong, or what about this condition, you won't know what to do. But if you derived it from the ground up, and there's a great portion of this in the Y Combinator community that you, or the Silicon Valley community that you probably heard, is maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. It was like founder mode. Did that get to the UK? Okay.
Yeah. It was from Brian Chesky. I actually messaged him about it after.
Oh yeah, it was it was awesome, right? And so basically the tenet is that the founder always has special powers in the company because you know what built it. And so that is basically at its core the practitioner versus parrot. The people who came later are parroting why you do what you do, but you know what conditions you were in when you made this rule, and also you know how to break it and when to bend those rules. And so if you build something when you built it from those repetitions to distill out the few truths that exist, you'll know why those are the truths. Like, I'll give you a really simple example. So if we've tried to learn YouTube and we've gotten better over time. But in the beginning, I did this massive review and I figured out that the videos that we had that had 3 things at the beginning, proof, promise, plan, was the videos that did the best. And so then all of a sudden we said, okay, all videos have to have proof, promise, plan right at the beginning, the first 30 seconds. Great. So we started doing that for a while. And then we looked at the outliers among those and we were like, oh, well, we also, in some of the ones that did really well, also had some sort of visual picture of this plan. All right, so it became proof, promise, plan, picture. Then we kept looking and we found out over more repetitions that if we also include some sort of pain or problem that's being solved, that also helps. So proof, promise, plan, picture, pain. And so you're like, wait, if you keep adding to this thing, it's going to get really long. No, sometimes you can check multiple boxes with one thing. And this becomes the elegance of creation. Like, how can I check off 3 of these boxes with one sentence, right? And so that is, by the way, if you're like thinking about this, you're like, do they really think about this when they're making videos? Yes, and that is the difference between a 10,000 view video and a million view video. And it's understanding that level of nuance across the entire thing that creates expertise. And also, when you're like, oh, this video flopped when you're a beginner, you're like, these videos in general don't work or content doesn't work, rather than saying this video didn't work and here's why, because we did 3 of the 5. And so it's just like all of the, I mean, the devil is in the details, and you meet the devil himself by doing the unreasonable amount of work. And then it goes from uninformed lack of knowledge to informed optimism, because first you're like, I can make videos and get rich. Then you realize that it's really hard to make videos that people watch. And then finally you start to develop a framework of this is how I make videos that people watch. And when they don't watch it, it's because I didn't follow it.
It's so timely because it weaves into something you said earlier, because my girlfriend came to the recording yesterday, and as I went into the green room and I sat down, she went, babe, look, I found this new app. And I said, what is it? She goes, it's an app that summarizes books.
Yeah.
And it's called like Head something.
Yeah.
And she showed me it. And I go, look at my book.
Yeah.
Because I know the laws, I know the chapters, I know all of the principles that lead up to the point. So show me my book.
Oh,
and law 2 my book's called 33 Laws. So it's these 33 laws.
I got it, yeah.
And law 2 was about the Richard Feynman technique you talked about. And I explained why that process of learning something, simplifying it to its essence for a 10-year-old, teaching it to someone else. If they understand it, move on. If they don't, go back to the top and learn again. And it summarized law 2 of my book to like, writing is the best way to learn.
Yeah.
And I said, babe, if you just read that summary, the top of the pyramid, and you don't have the story and all these agreeable foundations, which I then explained to her, would you be able to then translate that and truly understand the nature of the problem so that you could apply it to lots of different settings and so on? And then I told her what that second law in my book actually meant, and she deleted the app.
Yeah.
Because there's no point knowing the conclusion.
The aphorism.
Yeah, the punchline when you don't know the story. And without the story, you can't, I guess, get to the first principles of the thing.
So this is really interesting because with that Feynman example,